So, who are you?
My name's Sahar Shahin. I'm a Community Liaison Officer for the Islamic Society of South Australia. I identify as an Australian Palestinian Muslim. So, a bit of three identities in one for me, but in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Can I ask that way round? Australian Palestinian, not a Palestinian Australian? Is there a reason for that?
Well, I was born in Australia, but I have a strong tie to my Palestinian heritage. But first and foremost, I was born here, raised here, and I've never been to Palestine, so I think it's only natural that Australia comes first.
And then the Muslim on the end. You don't just say I'm an Australian Palestinian, you say I'm an Australian Palestinian Muslim.
Well, I think in today's kind of ideology, it's important to be unapologetically Muslim because it's a controversial religion and it's often portrayed in a negative way. So for me, it's all about being unapologetically Muslim and being proud of my three identities.
And I'm interested, community liaison.
Yes.
What does that involve for you?
Many things. A big bulk of my job is talking to non-Muslims, so I do a lot of mosque tours and intercultural understanding, so explaining to other people what the differences between different religions might be, specifying the Muslim needs. A lot of businesses or organisations that deal with new migrants that might be of the Islamic faith contact me and ask me how they can better tailor their services to the Muslim community and or how they can be more culturally sensitive in how they deal with them as well.
So do you do some cultural training?
I don't necessarily do cultural training yet. We don't have a cultural training program as of yet, but I'm just always a phone call or an email away and just walk through that way.
Would you think that that was important to set up a cultural training program?
There's a number of intercultural training programs and contractors already in South Australia and around Australia. So I think it is an important need because cultures really do differ, and even within, for example, one country, cultures can differ and people aren't necessarily aware of that.
So in your opinion, what do you think are the benefits of having a multicultural society?
Well, without a multicultural society, we'd just be bland, I think. Nothing's black and white. You know, rainbows are beautiful because they have different colours. In the same way, a multicultural society is beautiful because it has different foods, different innovations, different technologies, different ways of doing things. And if we didn't have that, then, like I said, just be boring.
So you've obviously always been a proud Muslim.
Sure.
So do we have cultural harmony?
No. Quite blandly, no, we do not. I think there's a wave of people trying to build cultural harmony. Does it exist in completeness? No, it doesn't. It's still got a way to go. But we are getting closer, I believe.
What have been some of the steps to improvement?
Well, things like this event. So that awareness that there is a disparity between different identities and making that awareness, voiced. So letting people know that there is a disparity, that there are different cultures and we should embrace it rather than not. Being happy to embrace it is another thing. So explaining its benefits explaining the pros rather than the cons and focusing on those pros rather than cons, because I think in our day-to-day society we tend to focus on the differences rather than the similarities, when overwhelmingly the similarities are actually higher.
Could you give me some examples of how you found that in your work and your community work? The similarities, some of the similarities you try to stress?
I try to stress the similarities of being a human being. So for me, I don't care what religion you are. I don't care if you believe in God or don't believe in God. The fact is you're human. You breathe oxygen. You've got blood running through your veins. You eat food. You most often have gone to school. Work a 9-to-5 job or night shift. You poor buggers. So we have all those similarities, but we tend to focus on religion. Like, that's, I feel, is a personal thing, and the way you practice your religion is between you and what other spiritual being you might practice it to.
Do you think that focus on religion by everybody in a way is actually getting in the way of cultural harmony?
I think there's a difference between culture and religion. And so yes, in a way it is, but at the same time I think religion also influences some cultures, and so it would be incorrect to completely leave it out of the conversation, but at the same time it is only a little part of the conversation. It shouldn't be the major part of the conversation, if that makes sense.
So if we can take a pulse check in 2018 as to, out of 10, where you believe Adelaide, we're trying to be local, with Adelaide, on a level of 1 to 10 with cultural harmony, where would you put us?
I'd probably put us at a 6 or a 7, because I think we really embrace some parts of cultural harmony. So we embrace some parts of other cultures, like the food, and often the clothing these days as well, so the fashion. But then there's, like I said, little parts that we're not quite there yet.
So in your opinion, on a good day it's a 7, on a bad day it's more closer to a 6?
That's correct.
So I'm just interested because, you know, you're born in Australia, and you've obviously always had maybe some issues around being a Muslim, but you are a proud Muslim. 10 years ago, if I'd have asked you that question to do the pulse check, would you have said 6 and 7 10 years ago?
10 years ago, I was still at school. I didn't wear a headscarf. I'm blonde and very white. And so I probably would have said it was like a 9, because I went to a Western school. I didn't look any different to everyone else. I didn't notice how much wearing something different could affect you. So I wouldn't have said that there wasn't cultural harmony back 10 years ago, not because there was a difference between 10 years ago and now, but because I wasn't affected by it.
So when did you change? What was the reason, if you don't mind me asking?
So I put the headscarf on Mother's Day in 2016. And I wanted to wear the headscarf for many years. My parents weren't quite as keen on the idea, because they were really worried about me being discriminated against, not being able to find a job, getting just racist slurs in day-to-day life. However, I kind of went, sorry, this is how I want to portray myself, and this is how I feel most comfortable, and so I'm going to start wearing the headscarf. And for me it was, if I don't do it today, then I'm just going to keep putting it off. So I did it that day, and I went out, and that was that.
Can I ask you how you felt that day when you walked out your front door, was it?
Yeah. I breathed a big sigh of relief, because for me, I have 3 identities and they don't always sync. But that day they felt like they really did, because I could express outwardly all 3 of them.
Do you mind sharing what the 3 identities are?
So my Australian identity, my Palestinian identity, and my Muslim identity. A lot of people might describe them as, you know, they can live separately but they can't live together. You know, you can either be Anglo, or you can be Arab, or you can be, you know, Muslim, or you can be not Muslim, or Christian, or atheist. But you know, a Muslim can't be Australian, or a Muslim can't be not Arab, or something like that. I happen to be Arab, but there are many Muslims that are not.
The putting on of the headscarf on that day, though, did you find that was for you? Did you understand then that you were almost a walking advertisement for being a Muslim woman? Did you?
Yeah, I did actually. It was one of the reasons I put on the headscarf, because I'm a law-educated Australian woman, and I knew that if someone was going to say something, that I was educated enough to be able to respond in a way that would represent my community in the best way.
And can I ask you, in that 2 years that you've been wearing the headscarf, have you found that you have been treated differently?
Yes, definitely.
Would you mind sharing?
Sure. So I used to work in retail. I got treated in two different ways. I can't say it was all bad. So I'd have so many times where I'd have a customer walk in, have the transaction, walk out, and then double back and go, actually, I just had to say, I love that headscarf colour on you. And those definitely outweighed the bad. I cannot, and they were the best times of my retail experience, because it made me feel really comfortable in what I was doing. But on the other side of it, I had a number of people go, oh, I didn't know you could work here, because I was a Muslim woman, and they just couldn't seem to fathom that a Muslim woman could work anywhere, let alone in a smoke shop.
Changing tack a little bit, in politics with a small p, there are words that are thrown around, and we hear the words assimilate, and we hear the words integrate.
Sure.
What do you think of those words, and do you have other words that you prefer?
Assimilate is obviously a word that I do not like. I think it's very outdated and very white Australia policy. So obviously I really dislike the word assimilate. I think it suggests that you should only be one way, and like I said before, one way is really boring. So, integrate is a better word, because I think it suggests that you should embrace both cultures. So like I said, many people have identify as more than one thing, and so they can embrace each part equally, or whatever part they feel closer to as they wish. Especially in a society, so for me, I have integrated in the sense that I have a Western education, I abide by Western laws. I could practice law if I wanted to as a registered lawyer, but at the same time I still pray 5 times a day in my office. I wear the headscarf freely. I eat my parents' Palestinian food every night. Do you know what I mean? So those are the ways I feel like integration. So I really believe in the term embracing culture, embracing different cultures, because I think it encapsulates what integration actually is.
So ideally, should we drop those 2 words? Should we drop those words from modern conversation?
In terms, coming from a legal perspective, no, because integration has a kind of a legal aspect to it, and any policy that's written needs to have clear definitions, and so unless we're going to find a better word and define it properly, it's not going to function. Assimilate, definitely drop it. Get it out of here.
Are there any other words that, if we were on that path, because obviously you've only scored it a 6 or a 7 for cultural harmony,
Sure.
Are there any other words that you would like to be using, like you talked about embrace? Are there other words that you would like us to be using on that path to cultural harmony?
In terms of close to integrate or assimilate?
No, or words that you think better reflect how we could achieve cultural harmony.
I think the big catchword of the season at the moment is interculturalism. Multiculturalism used to be what we used to say, in the same way as like before we used to say ethnic, and now we say culturally and linguistically diverse. So it's gone from multicultural to intercultural because it's talking about cultural harmony. So it's talking about the diversity. Multiculturalism often referred to the other. So it was Anglos referring to other ethnicities, whereas interculturalism includes everyone. So it doesn't matter what part of the world or who's using that term, it's inclusive of whoever's using that term. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's new for me. Yeah. That's new for me. So one of the reasons we wanted to do this is that we feel that there are sometimes things that are not talked about but are felt by people, and sometimes people who are not white Australians feel that there are topics that are just not talked about with them. Do you believe that's so? And can you understand where some of those fears come from?
I think the problem, especially as a Muslim for me, is we're not necessarily talked to. We're talked about, but we're not talked to. And so for me, it's all about building those conversations, allowing those conversations to occur, no matter what the actual conversation is. If you want to ask me, are you a terrorist? Ask me to my face. Don't ask me behind a computer screen, because that's when you're going to get the best answer. And we have keyboard warriors these days who can say whatever they want behind the computer screen, but face to face they're a little less able. So that's one thing. So for me, it's not about what isn't asked, it's about the opportunity to ask, if that makes sense.
Do you think that Muslims in Adelaide are still, though, that's interesting what you said, is that you feel you want to be spoken to. Do you feel, though, that Muslims in Adelaide are still at the stage that they have to reach out to have those conversations rather than there being a natural conversation of people just talking to Muslims?
Yeah, I completely agree with that statement. So for me, I work in Islamic Society South Australia, and we run several events a year so that people have the opportunity to come and have those conversations. At the same time, I do get requests from, for example, schools to open those avenues, and I'm very grateful that teachers and the education system is understanding that it does need to start at a young age, that cultural awareness. Otherwise, later on you're less responsive, I believe. We are the ones that seem to have to reach out. People don't seem to identify us or think that they're able to talk to us from day to day. I don't think, unless you're an openly headscarf wearing woman, people don't necessarily identify you as Muslim straight away. So, if you're not a Muhammad, you don't, and they don't know, if they don't know your name, then it doesn't even matter if you're a Muhammad. They don't know you're Muslim, and so they don't ask you the questions, because these days religion is something you don't ask what religion you are, because it's a controversial topic and people just tend to want to steer clear these days. So let's make it not a controversial topic. Let's keep it an open conversation, an honest conversation. It's the only way I can see it progressing. So
just to keep pushing you, do you believe that Islamophobia is real?
Yeah. Islamophobia is definitely real and alive.
Here in Adelaide?
Here in Adelaide, we only had an incident at one of our mosques where someone came off the street and punched one of our worshippers right in front of our mosque, purely because he didn't want to make comment on a political issue that was overseas. And that only happened 2 days before Christmas.
And just going back to my question, where in your opinion does that come from? Where does that Islamophobia come from?
Misinformation, I think, is probably the biggest reason is why it comes, whether it's from the media, whether it's from what your parents or grandparents have kind of instilled in you, but it comes from fear as well. It's because they have had this misinformation, they've feared difference. And once again, they don't realise that how much contribution Muslims have had, in Adelaide and in Australia altogether. They don't know, for example, about the Afghan cameleers. they don't realise that that big train that runs in the middle of Australia was built by Muslims. They don't realise that Muslims have been in South Australia for 150 years this year. So they're not a new being. They're not from, you know, the Lebanon war. They're not from the Iraq war or the recent Afghan war. They are from, like, we've had Muslims here for 150 years. So they've not been here 20, 10 or 5 or very recently from, say, the Syrian conflict, 1 or 2 years. They've been here 150 years.
Do you find that you spend more time defending yourself as a Muslim or celebrating yourself as a Muslim?
Hard question. I think in my work, I tend to take a very positive response to any question I get, so I will always try and answer it in a positive manner, and so celebrate the different rather than dwell on what's not the same. In the past, yeah, I did defend myself a lot. It's hard not to, and especially, you know, when someone you think like that you've known all your life or for many years and has acted towards you in very kind manner, and then, you know, you become Facebook friends and you realise there's this whole spurt of anti-Muslim stuff, and you just go, and like I literally go, is this how you feel about me? And they'll go, no. I'm like, but I'm Muslim and you know I'm Muslim, so why are you saying this? And like the conversations you have there, I think are invaluable, because often they just don't make the connection that you're actually talking about me. You're not talking about this fantasy person in, you know, Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Iran. You're talking about this person that you work 9 to 5 with.
Do you feel that in 2018 that anybody who follows the Islamic faith is having to justify, defend their position more than any other religious grouping?
I definitely think we do have to justify ourselves more than every other religious grouping. I think a part of it is we're a newer religion than, say, Christianity, Judaism, and they probably had to defend themselves back in the day too. But once again, we also live in a society that is very well connected. You know, before you had your little communities and you didn't really go out of them unless you were going to do some trade. So you didn't really see other cultures unless you were going to do some trade. Whereas now you have literally a bit of every part of the world right here in South Australia. Do you know what I mean? So we are very connected, and it is a lot easier to find information. Whether it be correct or not is another question, but that extra connection has probably made it a little bit more difficult to integrate.
So let's stay on that positive note. What are Sahar's secret ingredients for cultural harmony?
I have one secret ingredient, and it's respect. So for me, my motto is, you don't have to agree with me, that's totally fine, but respect my opinion. So, you know, let's talk about it. Okay, you have your opinion, I have mine, and let's just respectfully disagree. And I'm happy for you to continue living your life the way you are, and I will continue living the life I am. And unless there is, you know, a criminal aspect to it, it's none of your business.
So going to my last question, but returning to the way that you described yourself. Yeah. Do you, Sahar, Australian, Palestinian, Muslim, belong in Australia?
I sure do. I sure do.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.